Hey, hello there, and welcome to the very first episode of the Disruptivespark podcast, recorded right here at Saturn Studios in Garden City, New York. On this podcast, we interview CEOs and business leaders who are doing some really cool stuff. They're implementing proven motivational strategies, and their teams are getting it done. I'm your host, Susan Gaddy, and joining me today in the studio is a man I really admire for his motivational, empowering strategies, Mr. Christian Fuller O'Brien. Christian is an associate director at the fabulous company Bristol Myers Squibb, who we all know is a global pharmaceutical company committed to discovering, developing, and delivering innovative medicines to patients with serious illnesses. At Bristol Myers Squibb, Christian develops strategies to motivate and inspire his team so that customers take action and patients may thrive. One of the things I value most are his leadership values, which is to ignite curiosity, nurture growth, and develop that ripple effect. We're going to hear all about that today. His mantra is, don't say it can't be done, because there's always a way. Christian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, my friend. I'm so grateful to be here. And Sue, thank you so much again. This is going to be fabulous.
Honestly, I couldn't think of a better person to help me launch this concept around how do you do things differently, right? How do you get out of the box? How do you grow and expand? And how do you help others on that journey? You're the best person to do that. So thank you and welcome.
You're going to make my head big, but I'll give you my Venmo later, okay? We'll make it happen. Yeah.
Yes. I had the pleasure of meeting Christian at a opportunity I had to speak at an ASTD event. He was there representing Bristol Myers Squibb, and he was talking about the amazing training program that he's co-created and currently successfully runs with his team. And I was like, wow, most people don't even believe training works, let alone know how to create training that works. And here's this guy who has already figured out the secret sauce. So I'm going to jump right into it with you. Tell everyone, what is it that you think that makes your program so different in that it gets results, it inspires people, and you seem to have this ability to just grow the heck out of everyone you connect with. What do you think are some of the things that go into making that happen?
Sure. Well, I'm really grateful to be here, as I mentioned earlier. I've been with Bristol Myers Squibb now since July 2020, and I've been leading a team of learning strategists for the past 7 months, and it's been one of the career highlights of my young career so far, so really grateful to be here. I would say it really boils down to a couple of key things. So I think one strategy is we train to the do. So aside from foundational knowledge, disease state, therapeutic knowledge, we train on skills, capabilities, and behaviors, because we know that when we have a sales professional in front of a customer, especially a healthcare professional, we need to make sure that they show up with confidence and a whole lot of competence. So I think training towards the do, that's one of our biggest things. Another thing.
I love that. Can I just jump into that for a second? Train to the do. I mean, hashtag that, right? Hashtag that, put that out there. Yep. It's not about the information. It's about the transformation. Yeah. So when you help people to overcome barriers that keep them from taking action, you're training to the do, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We had a little bit of a conversation about this earlier, because I want to just sort of slide this in here, because I don't think this is done in most training departments. But tell everybody how you're measuring this idea of, can you do something better, longer, faster than you could before the training? Tell everybody how you actually measure that right now.
Yeah, we measure confidence, and confidence is what really elicits that behavior change. So what we'll do is, when we design our training experiences, one of the measurement vehicles that we look at is, hey, do you feel confident in executing the brand strategy or taking that information to develop a clinical argument that really helps persuade the customer to take action and try something differently? So I think confidence is really key, because that's what leads to people not just taking that first step, but going back, developing that resilience, and helping meet the customers where they are so that they can transform patients' lives.
I love it. And honestly, I know it feels like the simplest little thing, but I really wanted to call attention to it, because the more confident people are, the more willing they are to get in action and stay in action.
It's true.
And so it also implies, right, that I've understood everything I need to understand, right? If you measure whether or not somebody has understood something, it does not imply they're willing to act on it.
That's right. Yeah. And it's more than just, at the end of the day, yes, you have to make sure that you understand your disease state, your product knowledge inside out and backwards, and also that you know the competitor better than you know yourself. But if you don't do anything with that knowledge, or you can't tell a story or have a conversation, then it's really for naught. So I think it's that combination, that sweet spot where you have skills with knowledge and it leads to confidence. And that's what we've seen time and time again with our hires. Yeah.
And do you find that, so you have to go back out to the business and you have to report results, right? Do you share a confidence score? Is that anything you do?
Yes, absolutely. We so our trainers, often calibrate routinely. So whether it's biweekly or quarterly with their brand stakeholders, but we also report out to our sales leadership team, who's one of our primary stakeholders as well. After each training experience or after each resource or tactic is delivered as part of our strategic learning plan that we put together for the full calendar year, we reflect and we hold hands and we say, what could have been different? What did it produce? Did it achieve the learning objective that we set out to earlier in the year? And how can we refine, perhaps pivot, and do things better the second time around? So yeah, the confidence scores are key. We have a mindset within my department and within my organization called test and learn. So even if it's not a slam dunk the first time, it doesn't mean that we lose steam or gusto. It means that we refine, optimize, and do it better the next time around.
Oh my goodness, dropping so many nuggets and so much good wisdom. Because honestly, I really think that little simple, teeny tiny tweak right there, even if it's not a slam dunk the first time, I think this is especially true for people in training and training metrics, right? Because we all grew up going to school, right? And what did you want when you were in school?
Perfect days.
You wanted a perfect 100%, and they tried to get rid of 100% and they put in letters, and then you wanted the what? You wanted the A,
the
right?
A+,
and then they put in numbers 1 to 5. What did you want? You wanted the 5, right? So success was truly measured by how perfect were you, and we've been conditioned our whole lives to believe that, and it's everywhere. But the second you start allowing yourself to be empowered by things not being at 100%, all of a sudden, everything is accessible to you. I always jokingly say, in marketing, if you get someone to open up an email 30% of the time, you're a freaking genius. Right? But in training, if there's not 100% of something, it's not good enough.
And it's always, I think it's also easy, especially because, within a training organization at any company, it doesn't matter if you're working in biopharma or you're working in tech or telecom. Trainers are typically conscientious, high-performing individuals who may have had a proven track record in another function, whether they were in sales or marketing. If you bring somebody like that over into a function like training, which is educating, facilitating knowledge, and developing a growth mindset, there could be a disconnect at times because they may have very high expectations and set the bar very high in and of itself because of their personality and their background. So I think the net is that when you foster an environment that looks to the incremental gains, the incremental improvement, that's where you really unlock reimagining how we do things. That's where you unlock better execution. And that's where you also unlock self-awareness. I think the best sales reps are the ones who acknowledge perhaps what they could have done differently than during their interaction, and they do it differently the next time.
Right.
Because they're constantly taking inventory. They're looking at themselves in the mirror. And to me, that's what great looks like. It's that self-awareness is key. So I really think that's another strategy that our training professionals may not always acknowledge in the work that they do day in and day out.
I couldn't agree more. Now, I feel like I got us a little off track from the beginning, so feel free to steer me back if there's another strategy. But I would pull the thread on this concept of growth mindset with you, because you've mentioned it a couple of times now. I'm a huge believer in it, but I'd love for you to kind of share in your own words, what does that mean to you, and how do you use it for success in your programs at Bristol Myers Squibb?
Yeah, sure. I think, There was a lot that came out of COVID. There was a lot of challenges, of course, that all industries face, but there was also the benefit of reimagining how we once did things. And I think, the reason why I'm so grateful to work in the organization that I do is because we have a test and learn approach where we're empowered. If we have an idea, let's say we watched a masterclass recently and we're like, that might be a platform that would go very well with our new hire training. Or we listen to a podcast. Maybe we could take those nuggets and zhuzh it, make it our own, but then redeploy it in a way that's going to be impactful and meaningful to our salespeople. I think at the end of the day, having a growth mindset means creating space for people to ideate without limits. Because the minute that you put a limit on something or a process, in my opinion, it may actually stifle the creativity. So what I like to do with my team, and we do this routinely, whether it's during our staff meetings or during informal one-on-ones, we just dedicate time to ideating and spitballing. And instead of getting so wrapped up in operationalizing the details, we really look at things holistically and big picture. And when we do that, it then enables us downstream to develop advocates on our journey for co-creation. So if we want to take a novel idea and run it through our regulatory friends, we can huddle up with them, present our idea. They can provide us with some healthy guardrails, but it doesn't mean that nothing gets accomplished. It means that we just refine and optimize it so it has a better return later.
I love it.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's really... I love your definition for growth mindset and actually showing people a proven way to do that. First of all, it begins by just letting something be expansive.
Yeah.
We were actually having a funny conversation, Christian and I were, before this started, because I met him. I was so excited about what he was doing. And I often host things through LinkedIn Live, which I just do from my house, And so I invited Christian to do this, and he's like, I'll come to you. And he didn't know this, but in my head, I'm like, well, I sit at my desk in like my side den. I'm like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to host a podcast conversation that way, but I didn't let it stop me. And that's new for me because I'm one of those people very concerned about the how.
Yeah.
Very concerned about the how.
Yep.
And if I don't see the how, it will often stop my action.
Yeah.
So I've been working very hard on that with a mentor. I might add, because you can't really fix things for yourself. You need outside perspective.
And you need a champion too, who helps call it like it is. Yeah, that's great.
She called me out a lot on that. I won't use the terms that she used, but okay, we got there. And so I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm just going to say yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to believe. Right? I'm going to know that this is the right thing for me, and I'm going to say yes. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah.
And normally, I don't know if you ever experienced this, but I am definitely the person that my fight or flight kicks in. It doesn't matter that I'm truly under attack or not. Like, my own fear in my head is so strong. There's so much noise in my head sometimes that it sets it off.
Yeah.
And I immediately go into that, fight or flight. Oh my goodness, what did I just do? But because I wasn't worried about the how, that didn't even trigger.
Yeah.
Which was really cool for me. So anybody out there that says things and immediately starts biting your nails and worry, if you release your need for the how, that actually doesn't even happen, which allowed me to be clear enough to think, who do I know?
Yeah.
And I went outside of my network. And of course, that's how I ended up in this beautiful Saturn Studios. Thank you so much,
Love
PH
it.
Consulting. Yeah. They are my champions. They are the best. So, and here, and here we are.
Yeah.
So I'm new to this. I feel like this is easy for you, right?
Well, I think at the end of the day, don't say it can't be done. There's always a way. There's always a way. And I think our experience in life, and even if we're dealing with trials or different circumstances at work, we can always lean on our experience where we've been resilient and we've risen above, and we can apply that same strategy, that same thinking to whatever is confronting us, whatever obstacle is in our way. I lean a lot on some of my obstacles outside of work to propel me forward in the work that I do. I think it may be a little cheesy, but it just
I'm totally
helps
on board with
so
that.
much because, if you go into anything in life by saying, I've done something like this before, I think I can do it again, it totally alters your brain chemistry and what's possible. So I'm a huge advocate for really looking to your experience to help propel you forward in those moments where you're doubting yourself and where you have that inner saboteur saying that it can't be done.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Such a great parallel. And I can tell you, I feel like I've really gotten good at that too.
Yeah.
Right. And I'll tell you the other one, if I don't have my own proof, which a lot of times I don't, I'm kind of beyond anywhere I ever believed I could be.
Right.
So I'm really at an upper limit where there's nothing in my past at this point that is the future, right? Mm-hmm. So I've actually been like finding other people that have been on the journey and borrowing their proof.
See, it's a great thing that you brought that up too, because that goes back to one of our other strategies, for the people, by the people, especially when we think about sales learning, sales training, especially in a regulated industry like biopharma. A real gift that we also cultivate within our new hire curriculum is exposing our new hires to tenured, seasoned sales professionals. And what it does is it really not only provides them with reality, but it also provides them with additional inspiration and motivation, because they're able to see themselves in these people who've also grown or recently graduated from the new hire experience and are just crushing it. They're doing a great job for patients. They're doing a great job for their team, the business unit, the company. So I just think it's that ingredient of seeing what you want, and seeing is believing, right? And that really just propels our learners to achieve what they may even think is not possible in that moment.
Yeah. Right. If you don't have your own proof is what propels.
Yeah.
We were having a fun conversation. Proof is what sells.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. You
Yes.
have to get people to yes. And how do you get people to yes? You have to show them proof.
Yeah.
In an absence of proof, you either have to borrow someone else's success, which I do all the time. I do all the time.
Yeah.
If I want to create a program for a client and I don't have the metrics that it works, I'm not that original. Somebody else in the world is doing this right now, and probably a much bigger company. So I go Google and I search and I find the person that's doing it, and I correlate their success to the success we could have as well. So that's amazing. And the other fun little conversation we were having, kind of behind the scenes, was this whole idea of faith.
Yeah.
And I believe that faith has a huge place in our work and in helping us to be successful. I run my own company, so it's super easy for me to talk about whatever I want to talk about. But when you're in much bigger companies, I was asking Christian, how does that conversation happen in a much bigger company? And I'd love for you to share your response to that, because I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think that faith comes down to believing in yourself and removing any obstacle that's in your way. I think sometimes people may think of faith as a dirty word or something that really shouldn't be acknowledged. But we all need to have a cheerleader at the end of the day, whether it's from ourselves or from our workmates or from our colleagues and confidants. And I think that having that shared belief, that shared enthusiasm for the work that we do can actually propel us through some of our more draining or difficult days.
Yeah.
And I also think, too, what faith comes down to for me is, again, don't say it can't be done. There's always a way, right? But, really leaning on the community at work to help co-create and to help you get through even some of those challenges that you're confronted with. So having faith to acknowledge that, okay, I may not have the answer right now. Who can I consult who may have done this before? Mm-hmm. And how can I lean on maybe their expertise to help propel me and get me to that next level and to really level up? So that to me is just how I interpret faith and how I think the community at work may perceive it as well.
Such a great thing, and so powerful. Every now and again, I'll post something about it on LinkedIn, and I always am nervous, right? What's going to happen? And every single time, I've never gotten a negative response to it. If anything, I think there's a lot more people that would like to talk about faith, but feel that they can't. And so I love that we're finding creative ways to bridge that gap if it's not, something that can actually be brought out to its full effect within an organization.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to go back to, one of the things I loved when, you were talking about it, is I'm a huge advocate for internal podcasts.
Yes.
Because stories of success and even better stories of triumph, especially from senior people, carry so much weight and carry so much ability to inspire, to motivate, to be that spark, right?
Yeah.
We're all about being the disruptive spark. What was that spark I needed to do something differently, to think something differently? Tell everybody a little bit about your internal podcast. How did it get started? What's it like to manage? Because a lot of people, when I bring up the idea, they're like, oh my goodness, we can't do that. And here you are doing it. Tell people how that happened for you.
Well, podcasts are great. I think they're a passive learning modality that does not get enough credit. Especially because when you think about it, we're constantly vying for eyeballs and attention, whether it's through an email blast, a newsletter. There's some type of channel that's getting all the attention from our salespeople. And the beauty of a podcast, in my opinion, is that it serves as a companion on your way to your customer appointment. So if you're driving, you've got windshield time, you can listen to a podcast. We don't over-index. They're typically short form, so like no more than 10 minutes in length.
Yeah.
But they're the quick hit to really get your mind right and to put into perspective a lot of what you already know, but really with a crystallized call to action. That way, when you go in front of the customer, you're reminded of what you need to do and you're able to execute flawlessly. I think what's been so cool about podcasts is, and I give credit to my team for this, they really do a great job of identifying what the gap is. So they conduct really thorough gap analyses. They do it through either surveys or through focus groups, and they really try to identify and diagnose, hey, what's the skill or what's the piece of information that we may need to double click on or dive a little deeper. And they maximize the podcasts as a vehicle to help provide that quick, concise, succinct information that then alters the behavior change and helps lead to better performance and grow our trajectory.
I love it. And do you need fancy equipment?
No. Do you use your phone?
We
do quick and dirty. We use Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
We have a third party that helps provide some light elevator music to go
very nice.
for an intro and outro.
Yes.
But
okay.
It's high quality, even done through Microsoft Teams, and it's just an audio file. So I think if you that's the thing. I think sometimes, back to your earlier point about not letting the how get in the way of it, we think that we need a fancy studio. I love this. I'm grateful for this fantasy that I'm in right now, but I think you could, if you have the will, there's always a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed. And you know what? Here's the other thing too. Like what I want to use your words, test and learn.
Test and learn.
Yeah. So here's the thing that I say to my clients all the time.
Yeah.
I don't want to spend your money unless I know it's a really good investment.
Right.
Like, I'm all about making investments that really matter. And so a lot of times I want you to try it out organically on a cheaper option, so that if it doesn't work, if it does need to be tweaked, it will need to be tweaked. Let's change that. It will need to be tweaked. It didn't cost a ridiculous amount of money.
You're piloting
you're piloting it. You're testing things out. But I also think that is a direct reflection of the leadership.
Yeah.
Because if you are with a leader that believes success is 100%, right? Their ability to tolerate the more human side of creativity is a lot less.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any suggestions for people? Like the more I get to know you, you have no limitations, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you operate in that way, and you group, and you're a leader in that way. But that's not true for a lot of people. So you can't help sometimes who your leader is. So let's say someone doesn't have the good fortune of having you as their leader. What advice would you give to people that, need to work within that construct? How do you deal with that?
So I think it boils down to really two things. I think, in order to help people on the journey to developing a growth mindset, one piece of advice I would give would be ask, can we explore this? I think exploring is more expansive and invites somebody to join you as an expeditionist or an adventurer. It really invites that childlike curiosity, and it disarms people because they can probably think about what's imaginable, and it's a much more, it's a freeing feeling versus a limiting sensation. And the other thing too that I would recommend, if you feel confident and you feel like you're not going to ruin the relationship, because you never would, I'm not saying that you would if you asked this, but I think some people may get in their own way with that limiting self-talk. Ask the question, why not? We teach our salespeople all the time not to just fall for the smoke screen or for that objection that they hear. Why? Why not? Get to the true underlying root issue and peel back the layers of the onion, because what you're going to find, Sue, is that people have perception and they have reality. And perception may be, especially as a training strategist or a learning leader, it might be, oh, that initiative is too costly, or it's going to take a while, it's too complex. That can never be done because we haven't done that before. Why not? Pause. Don't jump into solutioning. Don't defend yourself, but just keep asking, because what you're going to see is that the perception starts to unravel. Those would be really my 2 keys of advice to help adopt a growth mindset.
Awesome. Especially when you don't have a leader that's displaying that at the time, because that does happen. Not everyone is on that same sort of energy wavelength of growth and possibility. So two really great examples and such really good advice. So I got to tell you, we're coming to the end. I am beyond excited. I always love to end things with like the one thing, right? I love the one thing conversation. And I'm going to put a little twist on this for us, because Christian shared with us he's got a brand new puppy. And you, I think, appreciate this as much as I do. So much of how I am at work is how I am as a parent. Yeah. So much of, how you interact with people is how you're going to interact with your puppy. Yeah. So what's one thing that you've learned now that you're responsible for a puppy that is going to find its way into your work life as well?
Well, I think it goes back to my favorite motto, and I can't take credit for this. This was one of my first leaders when I was a new sales professional. His name was Dominic Petrone, best guy out there. And he said, Christian, don't say it can't be done. There's always a way. And I look at Diana and I'm like, you're going to be able to be trained. It's going to be fine. I thought at first when we got her, I was like, she's not drinking from her bowl. She barely walks. I take her on a drag down the street. I was like, this is not going to work out. But over time, don't say it can't be done. There's always a way. Slowly but surely, she gets acclimated to her environment. She knows she's house trained. She's totally fine. And she's healthy, happy, and loving. And I think that's the biggest thing. Don't stand in your own way. Don't say it can't be done. There's always a way.
I love it. And if I were to add one thing to that, because I can appreciate that. I'm thinking of my son right now, who's now 15. He's going to kill me for this, but he had his little blankie that he took to bed. And I would start to be in a panic. I'm like, how's he going to go to college? Right? And then you have to remind yourself, nobody went to college sucking their thumb. Right? This too shall pass. And do you find that in the moments because I'm sure you were up at 4 a.m, 5 a.m, right? You're exhausted, you're tired, you're like, this sucks. Who said I should do this?
Yeah, right.
Right? Did you find that just having that belief that this will pass, that this won't last
for
forever,
sure,
was helpful?
Yeah, because you outlive everything. Every storm runs out of rain.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's me in a nutshell. I mean,
every storm runs out of rain.
Every storm runs out of rain. And I think you're always going to outlive every situation. Have faith in yourself, have faith in your abilities, be bold, be open, be proud, and don't say it can't be done, because there's always a way.
Well, and there you have it. This is why we call it the disruptive spark, people. It's not all the big things. It's these little tiny
nuggets.
Tweaks, shifts, mindset, beliefs that actually make the biggest impact, not just in our work lives, but in our personal and our home lives too. Christian, thank you so much for being here today.
This was a lot of fun. Let's do it again.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye now.